There's a phrase that Ram Dass says that I love, right? That we're all just here walking each other home. And I love that phrase because it really reflects on it. It reminds me of the fact that all I'm here to do is help remind you of something that you already are. That you are already perfect, that you are already limitless, powerful, infinite, expansive, right? And all the tools and all the things that I teach you and all the things that I share with you is just here. I'm just trying to mirror back to you the greatness that you already are. You know, but we forget, don't we? We forget the beauty and the power and the expansiveness that we are. We allow the fears and the trauma and the pain that we experience and the trauma and the pain that others project onto us to start to try to define who we are and to limit us and to put us in box after box after box. And that's the social conditioning and the cultural conditioning and the emotional conditioning that we oftentimes get from our family and our friends and everything else. And I'm here to be a pattern interrupt to that, because I said this joke, right, that we are these vast, limitless beings, and yet we sit here tethered to nothing. We sit here playing small for no reason other than we've created a false belief that that's all that we're capable of. Right? And this reminds me of a beautiful story, right? It's an old parable. Some of you, I'm sure of you have heard it, right? But when a person in India is training an elephant, right? What they do is when they have the little baby elephant, they put a little rope around its neck and they tie it to a little stake on the ground, okay? And that stake holds the elephant in place so the elephant can only go in a little circle. So then the elephant grows up and it becomes a giant trained elephant, right? How do you think they maintain control over those giant grown elephants? You know, an elephant with just tremendous power, tremendous physical power. How can you possibly in control an elephant of that size? Guess what? They do it the exact same way. The tiny rope attached to that tiny stake. Because even though the elephant has grown into this vast, huge being now, it still has that story that this stake and this rope are what are keeping it trapped. So even though at any moment, right, it could just turn its head and pull the stake out, right, because it grew up with this belief, right, that this stake is what holds it in place, we still allow and think about it, you are that elephant, right? We have these little stakes, you know, these little stakes and these little ropes of these little beliefs, these little experiences we had when we were children, these experiences we had when we were young, that one person that broke our heart, right? And we use that becomes that tiny little rope and that tiny little stake. And at any moment, we're so much grander and vaster than that. And yet we sit here and we're like, well, look at that rope and that stake. That means I can't go anywhere else. So I want you to look at yourself and I want you to ask yourself, Mat challenge for this week, how many little ropes and stakes do I have? How many illusory traps have I created for myself? How many ways do I feel that I'm bound in an illusory way just because it happened when I was a kid, right? Does this resonate with y'all? Give me a 1 if this makes sense, right? Because we get to plug into something greater than ourselves. We get to plug into the divinity that we truly are. And what is the greatest expression of that divinity? What is the greatest expression of who we are as a representation of God, as an echo of the divine? Guess what? You want to know what that is? You want to know what that expression is? It's love. When we are operating in a divine capacity, we are not operating from hate. We are not operating from fear. We are not operating from limitation, lack, scarcity, jealousy, ego. We're not operating from any of that crap, right? We're operating from love. Pure love, unconditional love, right? Patient love, grounded love. So we lead with love and we respond with compassion. We do not allow fear and lack and doubt and scarcity and limitations and conditioning and other people's shit to fundamentally inhibit our abilities to be who we were born to be who we are destined to be. We are all here because we are all here to walk each other home, to remind each other of our own inherent limitless capacity to be, do, and have anything that we want to create. We are all, masters at the canvas, painting the masterpiece of our lives. The question is, do you have the courage to pick up the brush and paint what it is that you want? Because it takes courage to do that. It takes courage to pull up that little stake. You know, I say that, I tell you that story about the elephant, not to demean or to mock anybody who's living that way, because I've lived that way for most of my life. I am still pulling up those stakes for myself, right? Those stakes are powerful. Those little ropes are powerful because we've lived with them our entire lives. So I'm not here to diminish or to dismiss or to devalue, you know, the limitations that we feel that we experience, but I'm here to tell you, you're so much bigger than that. You're so much greater than that, right? And when we can connect to the limitless capacity for love that we all possess, and we're able to connect with that, and we're able to operate as an expression of that compassionately, patiently, in a heartfelt way, connected, we can create so much magic in the world, not just for our lives, but for the lives of everyone around us.